Hey there, Mr. Reddit here. Welcome back to another episode of r/Entitled Parents Stories. Our first story we'll be reading today. Would I be the jerk if I send my parents to jail? After that, scam me out of my rent money? Have fun paying back 6 times the amount. And after that, entitled kid broke in my car and stole stuff. Entitled mom thinks an apology is enough. Now for every thumbs up this video gets, one Karen goes to jail. Please don't! So please smash that like button, and if you're new, subscribe and turn on notifications for new stories from Reddit every single day. Would I be the jerk if I send my parents to jail? I'm 29, female, and my parents have always been in financial trouble, something that I've never been able to understand because they both have a really generous salary, more than 3 times of mine. Because of these financial troubles, my aunts, uncles, and grandma have had, over the years, to lend them money. We were evicted a couple of times, that I know. We have had the water, the electricity, and the internet cut. Many things that over the years, I admit, have affected my emotional and mental health. All of this has made my relationship with my parents very difficult over the years, more when they would take advantage of me, making me pay for many things with the money that I earned working during holidays to pay for college, or making me call my grandma to ask her for money. All of it, while my mom used to spend money whenever she could on purses or jewelry. In the moment, I became an adult because they started to sign on the bills under my name without my permission, mostly because their credit was so bad that the companies wouldn't allow them to sign with their own names. When I figured it out, I asked them to stop, but they just lied about it, and I just let it go because I couldn't deal with it. Fast forward to the present, because of the whole situation going on, I was looking forward to the money from my income tax return, because my salary has gone down, so this money would have helped me out a lot. Instead of that, I received a letter from a courthouse saying that the money has been confiscated. I immediately phoned my mom, and she said that she didn't know anything about it, but she will fix it. Since I don't trust her at all, I called the court myself, and they explained to me that during the last year, there's been a process against me by a company I owe money from unpaid bills. All the papers had been sent to my parents, and they had signed and taken them. The debt was not paid with the money from my tax income, so part of my salary from now on will be confiscated too until it is fully paid. So my parents stole my identity to contract a bill under my name, didn't pay for it, and when the company claimed that debt through lawyers and a judge, they kept all the papers from me, which is also illegal, apparently waiting for all of it to be fixed by itself. My mother said that it was her right to put it under my name because I am her daughter, and it is my duty to help with the family burdens. Since then, and after really nasty words from her side and my sisters, who says that I am ungrateful and selfish, I haven't spoken to them, and I am in the middle of everything going on right now, with my salary already low, paying for a debt that is not mine. My friends and boyfriend say that I should talk with the police and stop all of this, otherwise they'll keep doing it, and I'm afraid they will. So, would I be the jerk if I speak to the court, even if it means that my parents, who are 70 and 63, could go to jail? Edit. Answers to some questions here. I am neither from USA nor from UK. I'm from another European country. But anyway, some of the advice that you've given me also applies here. I contacted the credit companies, Equifax, Experian, some time ago, and for the moment, the only debt that appears is another one from my parents, 4 years old. In my country, they expire when they are 6, so I'm not really worried about this one. I am worried about the other ones that I don't know about. That's why I gave my mom an ultimatum before going NC and told her that I wanted her to give me a list of the things she had contracted under my name and a signed document where she says she is going to pay for them or I will contact a lawyer. That's when she said all the duty/right thing and basically said I was bluffing. Since then, I've been thinking about what to do, because even if they have done all of this, they're still my parents, and I've always hoped that they would change and everything would be better. Also, it's really difficult to get rid of the feeling that I'm being selfish, as I've been told. I'm gonna try to make it through a lawyer, through a civil demand, so they don't go to jail, which they could. In my country, identity theft is up to 3 years of prison, and here you go if you get more than 2, even if you don't have a prior record. To those asking how do they spend money, I don't know. I truly have no idea. I think they just live above their means. Well, what do you think? Should OP get their parents sent to jail or not? Please let us know. Of course not. They deserve that money. Scam me out of rent money? Have fun paying back 6 times the amount. On my university Facebook page, I found a posting for a sublease offer by a girl named Wendy. She was transferring out of the university and needed her room rented out. It was an individual lease, so I wouldn't have to worry about damages in the shared space. I had my own deadbolt and key fob for my door, and the shared bathroom was huge, so I didn't even care if it stayed messy. I met the other roommates, we hit it off, and within a week, I had signed the sublease. I learned my lesson from my previous renting situations and made sure to only sign a semester sublease with Wendy. I explained to her that I didn't want to be stuck in another lease and waiting for it to expire if my new roommates and I were not compatible. I also didn't want a lease during the summer when I didn't have plans to live on campus. She was fine with this, as no one else was willing to pay her the full amount of monthly rent. A semester went by and my roommates were nice, so I didn't think twice about extending my sublease until the end of May. School would be over by May 5th, and I already had a new apartment near my internship lined up for June 1st. I told this all to Wendy 4 months in advance, so she would have plenty of time to find someone to move into my room for the summer. Since I signed my lease extension, I had noticed that the quality of living in my complex had tanked to new lows. If you've never lived in a student apartment complex, they're pretty much run like dorms, though they are marginally cheaper and have more privacy with individual rooms. The past few months, I noticed that none of the public toilets in the gym or study floors were being cleaned. The security guard would let random drunk people use the facilities inside. None of the lights on a floor of the parking garage worked. There would be alcohol and vomit for days on the hallways, and the trash chutes were constantly jammed and overflowing, causing my entire floor to reek of garbage. We also had frequent plumbing and heating issues. Management seemed to do the bare minimum at their own pace to fix these problems. This would all come back later. So in December, I paid $5,500 plus fees for rent/utilities/service for December through May. Note, I paid for the upcoming semester along with my last month's rent before my initial lease expired. Not smart, but I had cleaned out my entire savings to do this, so I didn't have to worry about late payments, e-check fees, or scrambling to pay rent at the end of each month. I worked a minimum wage tip-based job, and there were so many stupid fees just for paying rent that were eating up my paychecks, and cash was not allowed. Ultimately, I realized it was cheaper to prepay the rent and just live paycheck to paycheck for my food costs. Since this was a student building, the rent portal worked on credits and would just subtract monthly from any prepaid direct deposit. We also had a utility cap, so I never had to worry about any more payments. Now for the part where Wendy messed up. May rolls around, and I double-check with Wendy that I am moving back home right after finals, May 4th, and the new tenant can move in starting June 1st, since I paid until the end of May. I told her that if anyone wants to move in earlier than June 1st, to contact me because I didn't want to return my keys, and it would be nice to get some money back for the empty apartment I'm paying for. She agreed to this. All my things were moved out except for sheets and a single pillow, just in case I wanted to visit my friends or work an extra shift in May. Wendy calls me the day after I move and cries about how she cannot find anyone to take over the rest of the lease and if I could extend into the summer. She has another apartment signed at her new school and cannot afford the rent for both. I tell her I'm in the same situation with my new apartment, so I can't afford to rent an empty room either. At the end of the day, her name is on the lease and not mine. She does not take this well. May 15th, I get a $1,000 charge on my account from the rental company for June rent and for losing my keys and a noise complaint violation fee. I call management right away because no one was supposed to be home and realize it's not the lady who has been working there for the past 9 months, but someone completely different. Turns out older management knew they were being replaced since a national rental company bought the building, so they completely gave up on any upkeep during the months they were being phased out. They hadn't even filed my sublease contract from December, for which I had paid a hefty contract filing fee because Wendy never bothered to sign it. She just ignored the email they sent requesting her electronic signature, and management was too lazy to look into it because I had prepaid for the semester and they never had to bother Wendy for any late payments. New management just assumed I was the original lessor or a relative of Wendy's since my account was linked to the unit's rent portal. On top of the old management's mess up, Wendy knew about the lack of proper sublease contract and used it to her advantage. She offered a new sublease discounted rent to move in for the full summer. Wendy essentially charged 2 months' rent for 4 months of living, but was only able to do so since I had paid for the free month she was offering to her subleaser, and my damage deposit covered the last month's rent. She was actually gaining an extra $700 out of the deal, on top of having her rent fully covered for the last 4 months of the lease. She had a new sublease drafted by her ever-clueless new manager and set the start date as May 6th, overlapping my contract, which ended on May 31st. To explain the lack of returned keys, Wendy also called management and said she had lost her keys during moving and to just charge her portal for the replacement when the sublease moved in. She assumed that this charge would be revoked when I returned my keys and the unpaid rent for the last month would be subtracted from my damage deposit, so I'd be none the wiser. She did not think that I would still be checking my rent portal occasionally after I moved out. This meant that from the very next day I moved out, someone had been living in my room, which I paid for, without my knowledge or the knowledge of any of my other roommates who had gone on summer vacation. I was livid, but I still tried to patch things up between us. I offered to schedule an appointment at our local tenants union for mediation, and I even offered to just have her family talk to mine in case there were other personal issues that prevented Wendy from paying. She wrote me back a nasty email from her lawyer, saying she had a saved Snapchat of my roommates, her friends since high school, smoking and drinking during my birthday party in the apartment, and she wouldn't hesitate to send it to my boss, academic advisor, and the building manager. I was 22 and was not even present in the picture she had, so I'm not sure what she would have accomplished through this other than ratting out her own friends or incurring a fine on her own lease. Plus, I'm not aware of any lawyer who would threaten blackmail and send it through their client's personal email address. She also said she needed the extra money for damages and cleaning, stating the pillow I left in the room as evidence of a lack of cleaning. Well, all of the cleaning fees would have been avoided if she told me someone was moving in, blackmailing me into giving up a full month's rent to throw away a mere pillow and blanket I left because I was still paying for the room? Nuclear option it would have to be. I contacted the university's free legal services and had them explain the process and required papers and documents I would need to get her in civil court. Since she was no longer a student, I was able to receive help without any conflict of interest under their student-tenant issues advisor. The legal counselor suggested I try to pursue a court-operated mediation for the issue and follow with a civil suit if the mediation didn't work. They referred me to a local lawyer who does this sort of work pro bono to prevent companies from taking advantage of inexperienced students who gladly helped me. At this point, I had received enough rude emails from her brother and boyfriend calling me a junkie and a scammer for trying to extort money from Wendy, their pure angel. I sent the court mediation paperwork straight to her family's home address just to expose her to everyone who she had told that I was just a crazy jerk trying to steal her money. Then I took her nasty email and forwarded it to every person included in the picture that she was trying to hold over me. I simply believed they deserved to know that their friend didn't care about any possible fallout they might experience and was using their post/image to blackmail someone. Finally, I spoke to the new management about the missing contract I had paid extra money to file. New manager admitted she was too overwhelmed by the massive pile of garbage the building had become to do her due diligence and did have to concede she made a mistake once she saw my saved copy of the lease extension. But she still could not evict the new tenant since it was my sublease extension that was invalid without Wendy's signature. I had new manager send me the new tenant's contact and forwarded the overlapping leases and the utility overage receipts since January to the accounting/fraud department of the management company and new manager's boss, who was in charge of making sure the transition between management was smooth. I made sure to hammer in the fact that had anything gone wrong since December, I could have been evicted for illegal subletting after the company had accepted payment, just because Wendy didn't feel like signing a contract and no one bothered to follow up on this. Within a day, I had not only received the $700 refund meant for May, but over 7 times more. The company wanted to wash its hands of any liability in this mess they inadvertently helped orchestrate, so they just reverted the direct deposit, which included the overlapping month in question. But that payment had been made in December, so I got back 6 months of rent, utilities, deposit, and fees. I essentially got back a semester's worth of rent, plus December. As the original lessor to the unit, Wendy was now liable for all 7 months of payment, including the deposit, since my living situation there could only legally be classified by the building as an unauthorized verbal contract. If Wendy had agreed to mediation at the tenants union, or even just through local courts, we would have only disputed $700 and likely a significant portion of it would have been eaten up through court fees or paying the mediator. I waited for a while after my payout to really make her sweat from the pressure of the court requesting her presence and the building manager requesting $6,000 in unpaid rent. I knew the building manager was leaving her and her parents' voicemails daily about needing to call back to fix the situation before it got worse, but they were all avoiding calls at this point. Eventually, her family had to hire a real lawyer to get back to me about revisiting an out-of-court mediation. Finally, I sent her a saccharine email explaining that I was willing to cancel the upcoming mediation request at the local courthouse, but only because I got back what I wanted and more. I told her that if she, her family, her pretend lawyer, or her real lawyer wanted to call me and settle my rent, I would be happy to pay for the first time I lived there, and she could handle the rest on her own, like she should have done in the first place. I think her family was too embarrassed to even ask for rent from December to May and couldn't deny their daughter had been lying this whole time, especially since they had to pay for a lawyer on top of everything else to clean up her mess. They never requested that I pay them back at all, and I have not heard or seen her since. None of her friends from my school are friendly with her anymore, and their families are not on cordial terms since the email I forwarded to her friends spread like wildfire. I'm not sure about the financial fallout of this on her end. According to the local rumor mill, her upper-middle-class parents bailed their darling princess out of it, and the building absorbed the loss on utilities and fees for its own mistakes. But I'm sure she won't be trying to scam anyone else for a while. Has anyone ever tried to scam you before? If so, what did you do about it? Please let us know. Scamming people is one of my favorite pastimes. Entitled kid broke in my car and stole stuff. Entitled mom thinks an apology is enough. We had a staycation this weekend. We visited a local luxury resort and parked our car with the valet. Upon departure, we found that items were missing. We reported it to the valet, and after investigating with the police, they found that some teens were going through the parking lot removing items from cars the valet left unlocked. Police reports were filed, the people were located, and they happened to be guests at the hotel with their family. We were asked to meet with the mother at 7 p.m. to retrieve our items. Let me say that we are not rich. We work hard. We have 3 kids. We work days, nights, weekends to be okay and get ahead. This day/night was some of the time for our family to enjoy themselves before we headed back to weeks of non-stop work. Anyways, the mother arrives and sends her son with the security to apologize. I stated I didn't want an apology, just my things. Upon reviewing the bag I was handed, it was incomplete and what was there was damaged. It was sunglasses, Ray-Bans to be specific, a matching pair that I got my husband and I for Christmas. They were in great condition in their cases in the car. We literally used them in the car and put them back. We're weird like that. Both the mother and son became aggressive, stating that's all he took and now we got it back, so they're done. No. Did I mention we work hard? Your kid stole from me. She insulted me, called us bad people in front of my kids. She tried to use the "you're a mother" card. Yes, I'm a mother, but I would sell my kid's stuff if he stole from you, or I'd make his 17-year-old self work to pay it off. She kept stating I was incorrectly stating the value, so I pulled out the receipt. Don't you love how they email those things now? In the end, we left and will proceed with trying to go through court. The entitlement on the lady and her 17-year-old grown son was too much for me. I do not accept your apology. You can't insult and berate someone and demand I accept your apology without a good faith effort to replace what was lost. I was a kid. I crashed. My dad paid. As parents, we are responsible for our kids' actions, and teaching them sorry doesn't cut it. So, am I the jerk? Adding, the mother kept stating that money isn't an issue. She's a lawyer. So, it's not a situation where they just couldn't afford to make it right. She just felt she didn't need to. Update. Am I the jerk for wanting the book thrown at him? For going after a reimbursement or some sort of punishment? Is he just a kid? Am I being petty? As someone who is empathic to others, I have been unsure of my position. However, many of you have made me feel as if I am not the jerk, so thank you. Police are dragging their feet and stating that meeting with the family at the behest of the hotel has basically voided our claim to a burglary. The state attorney's office stated that it's not true. Let us see if the police and state attorney get it together. Well, what do you think? Was an apology enough? Or would you like to see that 17-year-old get punished for what he did? Please let us know. Oh, he's just a baby. He doesn't know any better. Entitled grandma tries to sue widow for our house. So this was back when I was around 4, and my grandma from my mother's side told me. She's a saint, and I love her. Basically, I was born and lived in Russia until I was 8. Then we moved to Canada. Now, the only thing that is relevant to us being in Russia was that housing was more affordable than in Canada, And since my mom ran 2 businesses, a kid's toy store and a travel agency, and my dad ran a building company, we owned a pretty sizable home. Now, they never spoiled us since they both grew up in poor households and didn't want us to become brats. Their philosophy was always get good grades, and then your grades will work for you. Basically, we got to study well, and then we would earn well. Now, this comes to the second part of the story. When I was 4, my dad gave me some meaningless task, watering down the lawn, I think just to get me to stop asking him questions. We had an NFC tag thingy that opens our gate, kind of like in an apartment building for the main door, that hasn't worked for 2 years, and he decided to fix it. Turns out that the guy who did the wiring in our house messed up a breaker thing where it was completely broken, so when he shut off the breaker, it did nothing. My father then got shocked through his arm and through his heart, causing it to stop while working on the wiring, and by the time I went to ask him a question, I saw him on the ground and called my mom, who was at work. She called the ambulance and rushed home, but the paramedics said that he was out with no pulse for 20 minutes, and even if they could start his heart again, he would most likely have severe brain damage and never recover. We've got entitled grandma, we've got mom/widow, we've got G, my good grandma, and we've got me, someone who's really upset right now. Mom. Oh, good, entitled grandma, you're here. Sarcastically, since she made my mom cry a lot, even yelling at her on her wedding day to the point where my dad/her son would outright kick her out and not let her near us for 2 full years. Entitled grandma. I came as soon as I heard. Lies. My mom called right after calling 911 and telling us to stay with our family's friends, and she came 3 days later during the burial. Me. Hey, entitled grandma, nice to see you. Didn't know she was a jerk. I was 4. Entitled grandma. Hey, buddy, go to your brother. I need to talk to your mummy. So, what's the takeaway? Mom and good grandma. What do you mean, the takeaway? Don't play dumb. I see the clothes you and my son wore. I see your cars. I've been to your house. I know he was rich. What did he leave to me? This was all happening while they were getting ready to close the casket. She was the last to arrive and didn't even want to see her son. Mom. Seriously? What the heck is wrong with you? Your son is gone, and all you care about is his cash? Good grandma. Okay, let's get away from her to go see your children. I swear to God, entitled grandma, you should have never showed up. A few days later, we get a call from her. Entitled grandma. Hey, so I see that my son left everything to you and your kids, but I think this is a typo. He left both his part of the house and your guy's old apartment to other grandma. Mom. I'll only talk to you through a lawyer. Forget you. She hangs up. Good grandma. I'll just give you my half of the house to make it easier for you and the kids if you want to sell it later on. The next day, we get a court letter 3 days after my dad's burial. Great. Entitled grandma is contesting the will and trying to steal our house. Terrific. Now my mom's childhood and current best friend turned out to be a lawyer, and since she knew what happened and was at the funeral, she offered to help free of charge. My mom goes to court and obviously wins cause marriage and the will. And entitled grandma's case was horrible. She basically put on a fake grieving face and said that due to the loss of her son, she would like to live closer to where he was buried and she should get the entire house, even my mom's part because she lost her son. Didn't even say goodbye at the funeral, just left after my grandma called her out on her BS. Entitled grandma. I'm sorry about the court, but can I please move in to be closer to the grandkids? Mom. Who the heck do you think you are to sue me 3 days after I had to bury my husband? Get the heck out. I never want to see you again. Entitled grandma doesn't want to leave, but since she was on our property past the gate, but not in the house, we called the cops and had her escorted. Good grandma ended up moving in to help my mom since she was managing 2 businesses and getting home at like 9. Now my mom forgave entitled grandma and lets her see me and my brother, but my good grandma never did. And she told me this and many more stories about my wonderful entitled grandma today, and I would love to share them. Entitled Mom and Dad Refuse to Pay and Are Horrible People. So just a bit of information. I work at a well-known trampoline park in the UK. We have a large area of trampolines, a section for climbing walls, and a soft play area for the little ones. My job role is a party host, so parents can book for an hour-and-a-half party, then pay a certain amount for a certain amount of kids to attend and get a party room for food and cake afterwards. I basically help ease the stress from the parents, so I spend the hour with the kids either jumping, climbing, or playing. Then I take them for food whilst the parents sit in the cafe. They also have the option to join us in the party room. So around the start of the year, I was put in for a party shift like normal. Got everything ready in the room and got ready to meet the party and introduce myself. Originally on the booking, it had said there were going to be 10 kids for a 6-year-old's party, one of the easy ones. The party are supposed to arrive 30 minutes before they are due to start jumping so they can be given wristbands, colored bibs, jumping socks, and a safety talk so they get the full hour. The party parents turned up 10 minutes before they were supposed to start. I had gathered 10 bibs, 10 wristbands, and 10 pairs of socks. There were about 9 kids already there, so I got them ready, checking their waivers so we had contact details and medical details in case of injury. I approached the mother of the birthday kid and asked if it was okay to leave the last wristband with her and for her to wait at the reception for the last party member to turn up so the kids that were already here could get their full hour and wouldn't be late. She looked at me like she had just seen a ghost. Entitled Mom, "What do you mean, wait for one more? There's about 20 kids that we are waiting for." Me, 20? I'm sorry, we only have 10 down to jump on your booking, unless it's booked under another name maybe? No, you idiot. I paid a lot of money. I paid deposit for 10 and paid the rest for the other 20. Me, okay, if you only paid deposit on 10, you would have only paid for 10 to jump. It doesn't take deposit, then take payment for a load more. It's likely you've only just paid for 10. There were only 10 waivers linked up to the booking, so there's the proof she only paid for 10. Let me speak to your manager. She stormed up to the reception desk whilst I went into the office to get my manager. She came and explained the exact same thing. The lady would not accept that she had only paid for 10. Even our booking system tells us how much payment was taken, and it was the right amount for only 10 people. Another thing you should know, as soon as the party number reaches higher than 20, you have to have 2 party hosts for safety because of the ratios. So if one of the kids went down and I had to do first aid, there would be another person to keep watch of the others. However, I was the only party host in and available that day. They had also only ordered enough food for 10, so there wouldn't have been enough food. After a lot of yelling from the mom, my manager told me to wristband all 30 kids with a different color wristband and just get them jumping whilst she dealt with the parents. Obviously, it was hectic trying to watch 30 kids by myself, as well as making sure they all knew where the drinks were. Luckily, my manager and another member of staff sorted the room out and the food order out, so I didn't have to worry about that. Eventually, the hour finished and it was time for the food. I got all the kids into the room and sat down where they started eating. Normally, I pour drinks. Now, here's what sort of upset me a bit. There were about 15 parents all stood around the room watching me struggle pouring juice for the kids. I accidentally ended up spilling a little bit of orange on a kid. I immediately apologized and grabbed some tissue so he could wipe it up. I heard a voice from one of the parents. "Don't spill it again, you silly girl." Bearing in mind I'm 19 and not a kid, they can see me struggling and accidents happen. I pretended I didn't hear it and just carried on. Shortly after that, the birthday kid's dad came into the room and saw what his son was eating. Entitled Dad, "Is this chicken? My son is a vegetarian. How dare you give this to him? Did you force him to eat this?" He got right up in my face, which was kind of funny as I was the same height as him. Now, each party room has CCTV in it, so my manager could definitely see it. Me, I didn't make him eat it, no. I told everyone it was chicken nuggets. There's cheese pizza, chips, garlic bread, and crisps. I never once told him he had to eat anything. I shrugged. The kid then decided to try and throw leftover nuggets in the jugs of squash. Me, "Guys, can you stop throwing food in the jugs? I won't fill them up again if you keep doing it." The kids laughed at me and kept doing it. Entitled Dad, "Don't you dare shout at the kids. We paid for this room, so they can do what they want. Where's your manager? You're clearly incapable of doing anything right. You're useless. Not even prepared for a party at all. You should be ashamed." I almost lost it. I took a deep breath. Me, "I'm sorry you feel that way. I'll go get my manager." I closed the door to the room that was open and walked to the office. As soon as I opened that office door, I burst into tears and my manager came running over. Manager, "What's happened? What's going on?" Me, "I can't do it. They're throwing food. The dad shouted at me for no reason, saying I'm useless and incapable of doing anything. I can't do it anymore." She sat me down at her desk and another manager sat with me while her and the park is what we call the trampoline area, manager, a big guy with muscles, went in and sorted them out. Basically, they had all finished the food whilst I was gone. My manager didn't even let them sing happy birthday or cut the cake. She straight up gave the kids all their shoes back, took the bibs off them, and asked them to leave. Luckily, all the kids' parents were pretty much there anyway, so they all eventually left whilst my manager and the park manager cleaned the room. I felt so bad leaving them to clean, but I was so annoyed and upset and low-key hyperventilating that I just didn't want to risk having another breakdown or a panic attack. Shortly after, I sat there with my manager and the managers of the company watching back the CCTV footage and basically answering questions and discussing about what happened. Me. I'm so sorry if I did something wrong. I tried to keep my cool and not let it affect me, but I just couldn't handle it, so I came and got my manager. Right from the second they got in the door, they were horrible. I was told that I did the right thing by getting the manager involved and that I wasn't in any trouble. How they couldn't imagine getting rid of me because I'm the most reliable and available member of staff they have, not to toot my own horn, so at least I didn't lose my job. But that day, I so nearly walked out and never came back. My manager took me out for dinner after the shift and it cheered me up a lot. Oh, and the parents refused to pay any more money than what they did, so they basically had 20 kids jump free. But they are no longer allowed in the building because they were also rude to the cafe staff. So I guess I won that one. Hope you enjoyed. Sorry it was so long. Let me know your thoughts. Go easy. I'm new at this. Am I the jerk for refusing to let my stepsister move in with me and potentially causing her to drop out of school? Me and my stepsister are the same age and go to different schools, but in the same city. I currently live in a one-bedroom apartment with my boyfriend, and she lives with a group of her friends. It turns out my stepsister has had this drama with her friends to do with one of their boyfriends, and they no longer want to live with her next year. They've now decided to find a smaller apartment without my stepsister. My stepsister doesn't know anyone else in the city and refuses to live with strangers. She explained the situation to our parents, and my mom called me up and suggested me and her find a place together next year. I told her no, and she got angry and started demanding I live with her. She threatened to cut me off, and when I pointed out she was giving me no financial assistance and the person they were sending money to monthly was my stepsister, she got angry and hung up. She has since sent me texts trying to guilt trip me into changing my mind. My stepdad has even been in contact to beg me to live with her and even offered to give me a monthly allowance if I do. He claims that my stepsister is threatening to drop out if I don't live with her because she can't deal with living with strangers. I told him I was sorry, but I liked living with my boyfriend, and my parents have since been suggesting I let her move in with us. I don't want to live with her for several reasons. 1. My boyfriend covers most of the household bills, including rent. I don't get financial help from my family and would need to take out even more loans or more work shifts if I was to live with my stepsister to cover the costs. 2. I hated living with my stepsister when we were growing up. She's dirty, lazy, and would expect me to do all of the cooking and cleaning. 3. Our schools are in the same city, but far enough apart that one of us would have a lengthy commute. If she had her way, I would be the one who has to do it, which means even more money wasted. I currently live within walking distance of my campus. I do feel bad for our parents though, because they already had to really push her to even get her to go to college, and now she's going to just drop out after all of the money they've already spent on her education. My stepsister even called me crying and said she doesn't want to drop out, but her anxiety is so bad she can't live with strangers. I don't know if she actually has anxiety or not. Am I the jerk? Well, what would you do? Would you let the stepsister live with you or not? Please let us know. And watch this video next that just popped up. You're gonna love it. And join as a channel member today and we'll give you a special shout out on our next video. And to have us make any kind of video you'd like us to, come visit us on Fiverr. Link pinned in the comments below.